Hello champions and happy Tuesday. Today we're going to talk about how to divide two whole numbers and write your remainder as a decimal. I know you're going to do a great job, and so does Mr. Smiles. Let's jump right in. Let's start with a problem. Which number has a 3 worth 1/10 times as much as the 3 in 25 and 374 thousandths? Well, let's see how you did. Remember, 1/10 times as much means that I'm going to decrease one place. So, if I'm starting in the tenths place, I needed to find the number with a 3 one place smaller than the tenths place. One place smaller than the tenths place is the hundredths place. So the correct answer was C, because the 3 is in the hundredths place. Avery had a 1/2 pound bag of trail mix. He poured an equal amount into each of 4 bags. How many pounds of trail mix did Avery put in each bag? What's happening in this problem? What kind of problem is this? This is a division problem. What division sentence will I need to solve this problem? I need to divide 1/2 pound of trail mix into each of 4 different bags. So I know my answer is going to be a fraction. What's 1/2 divided by 4? When I split 1/2 into 4 groups, there are 1/8 in each group. So Avery could put 1/8 pound of trail mix into each bag. This problem looks similar, but requires us to do different thinking. Let's look at this example. Avery put 1/6 pound of trail mix into each of 5 bags. How many pounds of trail mix did he have in all? So this time, I don't know what Avery started with when he split up the trail mix into bags. I know that he put 1/6 into the first bag, 1/6 into the second bag, and he did that a total of 5 times. What kind of problem is this? This is a multiplication problem. 5 times 1/6, because you're adding 1/6 repeatedly. What's 5 times 1/6? It's 5/6. In this problem, Avery had 5/6 pounds of trail mix in all. Let's look at another problem. Kevin has 8 blocks of clay. He tears each block into 1/4 block pieces. How many pieces can he make? What's happening in this problem? It's a division problem because he's splitting the blocks of clay. What division sentence would I use to solve this problem? This time, the 8 blocks are being split up. So I'm going to divide 8 divided by 1/4. Go ahead and solve that now. How many pieces can he make? When I split 8 holes into 4 pieces each, there are 32 pieces. He can make 32 pieces of clay. Now let's look at multiplying fractions times whole numbers. What's 4/5 times 7? First, when I multiply 4/5 times 7, what improper fraction will result? 28 over 5. 4 times 7 is 28, and 5 is the denominator. Now I need to divide to change that into a mixed number. When I divide 28 divided by 5, what mixed number do I get? Well, 5 goes into 28 5 times, with a remainder of 3. So the correct answer is 5 3/5. Let's look at another problem, 3/5 of 15. Remember, when I find a fraction of a number, I multiply. So what's 3/5 times 15? Well, 3 times 15 is 45, and the denominator stays 5. Now I can divide to change it into a whole number or mixed number. 45 divided by 5 is 9. So 3/5 of 15 is 9. Now let's do a couple decimal multiplication problems. What's 1 97 hundredths times 4? Well, there's 2 digits that need to be behind the decimal. When I multiply 4 times 1 97 hundredths, I get 7 88 hundredths. Now let's look at another example. What's 3 5 tenths times 7 tenths? First, how many numbers are going to be behind the decimal? Well, tenths times tenths is hundredths. There's 2 digits behind the decimal. Now I can multiply like normal. 7 times 5 is 35. 7 times 3 is 21, plus 3 more is 24. And I can move my decimal twice. Once, twice. The correct answer is 2 and 45 hundredths. Now let's dive into today's lesson. Today we're going to solve division problems and write remainders as decimals. In order to do this, remember that any whole number, like 13 here, can also be written as a decimal. $13, for example, is the same as $13.00. So 13 is the same as 13 and 0 tenths. Now, when I do my division, I can continue to add zeros until I don't need any more. Remember, the first step when dividing a decimal by a whole number is to pull the decimal straight up. Now I can divide. Should I start with 110, 13 ones, or 130 tenths? Here I'm going to start my division with 13 ones. How many times does 2 go into 13? 2 goes into 13 6 times. 6 times 2 is 12. When I subtract, I have 1 left over, and I can bring down my 0 in the tenths place. How many times does 2 go into 10? 2 goes into 10 5 times. What's 5 times 2? 5 times 2 is 10, so I have nothing left over. When I divide 13 divided by 2, I can write my answer as 6 and 5 tenths. Divide 15 by 4. Write your answer as a decimal. Remember, I can go ahead and add my decimal point and 0 before I even start, because 15 and 0 tenths is the same as 15. The first step when dividing a decimal is always to bring the decimal straight up. When I do my division, am I going to start with 110, 15 ones, or 150 tenths? I'm going to start with 15 ones. 4 is too big to divide 110. 4 goes into 15 how many times? 4 goes into 15 3 times. What's 3 times 4? 3 times 4 is 12. When I subtract, I have 3 left over. I can bring down my 0 from the tenths place. How many times does 4 go into 30? 4 goes into 30 7 times. What's 7 times 4? It's 28. What's 30 minus 28? Well, 10 minus 8 is 2, 2 minus 2 is 0. I still have a remainder, so I'm not finished dividing. I can add another 0 because a 0 after the decimal doesn't change the value, and bring it down. Now I can divide in the hundredths place. How many times does 4 go into 20? 4 goes into 20 5 times. 5 times 4 is 20, with nothing left over. So when I divide 15 divided by 4, I get 3 and 75 hundredths. Remember, I can add zeros after the decimal in place of a remainder. Now let's divide 4 divided by 5 and write our answer as a decimal. What's the first thing I should do? I'm going to add my decimal point and 0. What should I do before I divide a decimal by a whole number? I need to bring the decimal point straight up. Now I can start my division. Does 5 go into 4? No, it does not. Does 5 go into 40? Yes. How many times does 5 go into 40? 5 goes into 40 8 times. What's 8 times 5? 8 times 5 is 40. When I subtract, there's nothing left over. So the correct answer, 4 divided by 5, is 8 tenths. Now you try one. What's 12 divided by 8 with the remainder written as a decimal? 12 divided by 8 is 1 and 5 tenths. Take a moment to check your work with mine. Try one more example. What's 73 divided by 5 with the answer written as a decimal? 73 divided by 5 is 14 and 6/10. Take a moment to check your work with mine. You've done a great job on this video. Now it's time to go to the IXL practice listed on your playlist.